I'm an activist from the Polish-Canadian community, and I'm here today. It is a very special honor and privilege for me to be here today with you on the 55th anniversary of the Tibetan Uprising. And I'm here to stand in support and in solidarity with Tibet, with the Tibetan Canadian community, for a free Tibet, and to show our support for the campaigns, for everything that your community does, for what Tibetans do towards the goal of a free Tibet. I know from my own family experience, from my own ancestors, coming from who had to live under a communist regime as well, I know exactly the persecution, the oppression that perhaps some of you have already experienced yourselves or your families back in Tibet. And I'm here to stand and show my support as an activist in the Polish-Canadian community and stand in solidarity with you today. Friends, we live in the best country on the planet. And one of the reasons why Canada is considered, not just by us Canadians, but also around the world, is that because we are a moral voice. We are a moral conscience in the world. We recently witnessed, you've read in the news, about what's been happening in Ukraine. And just this past couple of weeks, the Canadian government has taken a strong, firm, concrete, and taken practical steps to condemn human rights abuses in Ukraine and condemn Russia's invasion of the Crimea. And that is rightfully so. But here in Canada, we still await a strong resolution passed in the Canadian Parliament on the human rights situation in Tibet, and recognizing and mourning the 127 self-immolators, the people that took the extreme form of protest. Friends, when you live in a situation where a state takes away basic fundamental rights, as we live in Canada, we live in a state that has a rights culture. In Tibet, that is not the case. The last recourse, the only thing that the people of Tibet have are their human rights, the inherent rights that come prior to government. And we need to pass a resolution, we need to pressure our own government to pass a resolution in Parliament recognizing this fact. Part of this resolution might even include protection, as we've read news reports coming out, of families that are now being families of self-immolators that are now being persecuted. Canada needs to act, and it needs to act now, to help protect the families of those that have taken the extreme form of protest. We witnessed also just a week ago that the Canadian Minister of State for Foreign Affairs and Consular Affairs at the UNHCR had made a statement condemning China's persecution of religious freedom in Tibet. That is a positive step, but we need to go further. And in a resolution that could be passed and hopefully unanimously in the Canadian Parliament, that not only would that be recognized, but also the human rights situation, the on-the-ground reality that is taking place in Tibet, and a resolution that either calls on our multilateral allies, such as the UN, United Nations, and our other allies around the world, democratic allies around the world, to send in a delegation, a fact-finding mission to report back on the on-the-ground reality that is taking place. And that, my friends, would bring awareness and advocacy from not just here in Canada, but around our country, from other communities in Canada. Just yesterday, I was at a rally for Ukraine, and what was amazing there was a ton of communities that fell under the Iron Curtain a long time ago during the Cold War. A lot of people came out with flags to show their support for the people of Ukraine and the Ukrainian Canadian community. I hope and I promise to help make this a reality next year, that at the next Uprising Day celebration, as we meet here 1 year from now, that those countries, our friends in the other communities, will also bring their flags here to this day, stand with the Tibetan community, and show their support and solidarity, because we've all gone through, these are countries that have gone through some of the same historical experiences. But, thank you. Such a resolution will send a strong statement, as Canada, as I mentioned, is a moral voice, a moral conscience in the world, will send a strong statement and a practical, concrete measure to the government of the People's Republic of China that Canada does not abhors its policies of oppression and persecution in Tibet. But friends, let us not forget that the human rights situation is very important, but it also goes, the situation in Tibet does go beyond as well. And we have to look at the question of the survival of the Tibetan people as well, in their national, religious, and cultural identity, which is being attacked even today. And I want to say that Canada also, and we must pressure our government to pass this resolution, to introduce and pass this resolution, must also include protections of that religious, cultural, and national identity, and protect Tibetans from policies of racial and cultural discrimination and ethnic cleansing that is going on in Tibet today.